Hi, the angels want to talk to you today. They say that sometimes we can be confused when someone we like moves away or doesn't talk to us. It can make you think, did I do something wrong? But the angels want you to know that it's not your fault. Sometimes people need a little time to think about their feelings, and that's normal. They also say that even when someone seems distant, they still care. They're just trying to understand what's in their heart. And you know what? Angels are always close by, helping you to be patient and to understand that some things take time to make sense. The angels want you to remember, every time you show affection and love, even when you don't get anything back at the time, you are planting seeds of love, and these seeds will grow in time. So keep being you, with your special way, because that's exactly what the world needs. And don't worry, everything done with love comes back to you sooner or later. Before continuing the message, write in the comments, I take ownership. Now, continuing the message. There are times when we meet someone who makes us question many things about ourselves and the relationship we are building. This person can act in an unexpected way, leading us to wonder if we have been misunderstood, or if our actions have made a different impression than the one we wanted to convey. It's as if we suddenly need to review all the interactions we've had, trying to find clues as to what this person really thought or felt. This connection can bring a sense of mystery, as the other person seems to act in ways that don't fit our known patterns. It's as if we were facing a jigsaw puzzle, where some pieces are missing. This can be uncomfortable, especially for those who like to understand relationships well and be clear about how the other person feels. However, precisely because of this difficulty, the connection takes on a special and profound meaning, challenging the way we see love and human relationships. This experience is like looking into a mirror that reflects parts of us we didn't know before. It is often through uncertainty that we learn more about our own feelings. The person involved may be someone very different from the others we meet along the way. Perhaps they are more reserved, or don't express themselves easily. For this reason, every gesture, every word or silence carries greater weight, leading us to reflect on the true meaning of this person's presence in our lives. Uncertainty can make us oscillate between moments of doubt and understanding. Sometimes we think we understand what's going on, but the next moment everything seems confusing again. The angels remind us that these connections are not a mistake, but an opportunity for growth. They invite us to look beyond appearances and trust that, even when we can't see the path clearly, there is always a greater purpose at stake. Silence, however uncomfortable, can be a powerful tool for transformation. When someone with whom we have an important connection moves away or stops communicating, it's common for doubts to arise. We wonder if we did something wrong, if our presence was a nuisance, or if we could have acted differently. This kind of silence, however, should not be seen as a rejection, but as a necessary pause so that both parties can reflect. The angels remind us that, in moments of estrangement, there is something deeper going on, an opportunity to reconnect with our essence. Silence is not empty. It offers a space for introspection, both for you and for the other person involved. Instead of looking for immediate answers, we are invited to look inwards and listen to what our heart has to say. Often, this pause helps us to perceive aspects of ourselves that we wouldn't be able to see in the midst of the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It can be a moment of personal reunion, a chance to cultivate self-knowledge and redirect our energy towards what really matters. Although silence can initially bring anxiety, it teaches us the importance of trusting in time. Life has its own rhythm, and not everything needs to be resolved at the moment we want. When we try to force a connection or answers, we can miss the opportunity to learn from the experience. The angels remind us that true growth happens in the pauses, in the spaces between words, and in the hours when there seems to be no clarity. Every moment of silence has a purpose, even if it's not obvious at first glance. Now, before we continue this message, write in the comments, 1111, to cry out. The absence of communication also reveals the kind of connection we are experiencing. When we think of someone, even without talking to them, it indicates that the connection is deeper than we imagine. The energy between two people doesn't fade with distance. It remains present, even in silence. Perhaps the other person is going through a personal process and needs time to understand how they feel. In the same way, this time can be essential for you, helping you to organize your thoughts and emotions. In some situations, you may feel like taking action, sending a message, or looking for a way to get back in touch. However, the angels suggest that this is a perfect opportunity to exercise patience and trust. Sometimes the best thing to do is to wait and allow the natural flow of things to unfold. Silence is also a form of respect, both for yourself and for the other person. It shows that you trust each other's process and journey. Silence can be interpreted in many ways, but one of the most important is that it offers us the chance to renew our energy. When we're not constantly trying to decipher or control the other person's reaction, we can turn our attention to ourselves. It's as if the universe were giving us a break to catch our breath and recharge our energy before moving on. This renewal is essential so that, when the time is right, we can meet the other person again with an open heart and a clear mind. It's important to remember that even in silence, the connection is still alive. It may be that the other person is thinking about you, even without expressing it. It could be that deep down, they are also reflecting on this connection and the impact it has on their life. The angels want you to know that you are not alone in this process. Just as you feel this absence, the other person is also on their own journey of self-discovery. Before continuing the message, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to subscribe, because you may never receive our messages again. This helps us to continue creating meaningful content for you. Continuing the message over time, the answers will start to come naturally. Silence is not the end, but just a transitional phase. When the words come back, both you and the other person will be better prepared to understand the true meaning of this connection. Until then, the angels ask you to trust. Everything is happening exactly as it should. There are connections that go beyond common understanding, because they operate on both a physical and spiritual level. When we meet someone whose energy is deeply intertwined with our own, it can change our perception of ourselves and the world around us. Sometimes their presence has such an intense impact that it makes us question everything we believe to be stable and familiar. This influence, even if silent, awakens dormant parts of the soul, inviting us to grow in ways we hadn't imagined possible before. The angels explain that this kind of connection is not by chance. It comes to initiate a process of spiritual awakening. This presence doesn't have to be constant to be felt. Even when this person is physically absent, their energy continues to resonate within us. We may find ourselves thinking about them in unexpected ways, or feeling emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. This is because these connections are much deeper than day-to-day interactions. It's as if both souls already had a silent agreement to meet in this life to fulfill a greater purpose. That's why the impact of this presence can't be ignored. It's actually a wake-up call to parts of us that have been lying dormant. The other person may often not be aware of the extent of this impact. They may feel something different, but not be able to put it into words, or fully understand it. This makes their actions and reactions sometimes contradictory and difficult to decipher. They can get close one day and pull away the next, as if they're trying to cope with the intensity of the connection. For those on the other side, this behavior may seem confusing, but it's important to understand that this kind of connection causes deep and often unexpected internal changes. The spiritual impact is not limited to the present moment. It manifests itself in various ways over time, both in dreams and in synchronicities, those little signs that look like coincidences, but actually carry important messages. You may notice that certain numbers or symbols appear over and over again, or that thoughts and feelings about the other person arise at exactly the moment when they are also thinking about you. These signs are a way for the angels to confirm that there is a greater purpose in this connection, even when we can't see it clearly. In addition, this presence can act as a spiritual mirror, revealing aspects of ourselves that need to be worked on. Perhaps the other person awakens insecurities or fears that you didn't know existed. This doesn't happen out of cruelty or chance, but as part of the healing process. The angels remind us that in deep connections, discomfort is a sign that we are growing. Every challenge that arises is an opportunity to align with your essence and strengthen your heart. At the same time, the impact you make on that person's life is just as significant. Just as they awaken something in you, your presence also changes them in ways you may not even realize. They may never have met someone with a similar energy to yours, which baffles them and makes them reflect on their own choices and beliefs. This explains why she sometimes reacts unexpectedly or distances herself. The connection with you challenges her to step out of her comfort zone. This kind of connection has the power to change not only the individuals involved, but also the environment around them. When two souls meet on such a deep level, they create an energy that can influence other people and situations. The angels tell us that these connections are like beacons of light, radiating vibrations that touch those nearby. Even if the person is not aware of it, they have already started a process of transformation that will affect not only themselves, but also everyone who crosses their path. It is therefore essential to understand that spiritual impact cannot be controlled or forced. It happens at the right time and in the right way according to the divine plan. When we try to rush or manipulate this process, we end up creating more resistance and hindering the natural flow of energy. The angels advise that instead of looking for immediate answers, we should trust in the wisdom of the universe and allow each thing to unfold at its own pace. This spiritual journey is not linear. There will be moments of doubt and uncertainty, just as there will be moments of clarity and peace. The important thing is to keep your heart open and keep moving forward, even when the path seems hazy. The impact of this connection is a gift, even if it sometimes comes disguised as a challenge. Over time, both you and the other person will begin to better understand what this connection means and why it is so important for both of you to grow. Meanwhile, the angels are always by your side, guiding and protecting you at every stage of this process. They ask you to trust and know that everything is happening as it should. Every encounter, every silence, and every emotion are essential parts of a bigger plan. Even when it seems that nothing is happening, the spiritual impact continues to operate silently, preparing you both for a new cycle of learning and growth. In deep and transformative connections, it is common for obstacles and resistance to arise. Often, these challenges are not only external, such as differences in life circumstances or the presence of other people, but also internal, reflecting fears, insecurities, and doubts about the connection itself. The angels explain that these resistances are not a sign that the connection shouldn't continue, but, on the contrary, are part of the growth process. Facing obstacles is an opportunity to develop inner strength and emotional clarity. One of the most common resistances arises when one or both of the parties involved cannot fully understand the depth of the connection. It can be difficult to accept that such an intense connection has appeared at an unexpected time, or that it is challenging beliefs and patterns built up over a lifetime. This causes some people to pull away, not for lack of interest, but because the intensity of the connection forces them to confront parts of themselves they would rather avoid. They may feel vulnerable and unprepared to deal with the emotional depth that the connection requires. In addition, there are cases where resistance manifests itself through external influences. Friends, family, or even past relationships can play important roles in how a person deals with connection. They may seek advice or validation from others, which can further complicate their perception of the relationship. The angels remind us that, although it's natural to seek guidance, not everyone will understand the uniqueness of a spiritual connection. Some people may suggest paths based on their own experiences, but these suggestions don't always resonate with what is true for the soul of the person going through this process. For this reason, it is important that each person involved in the connection learns to discern between external advice and their own intuition. The angels teach us that true wisdom comes from within, and that it is often necessary to silence external voices in order to hear what the heart really desires. Resistance can be overcome when you both manage to trust what you feel, even if the world around you says otherwise. This trust is essential to keep the connection alive and allow it to blossom at the right time. Another type of obstacle that can arise is the presence of unresolved relationships or situations from the past. It may be that the person is still emotionally attached to someone, or that they carry wounds from previous experiences. This emotional baggage creates barriers that make it difficult to fully surrender to the new connection. The angels remind us that instead of seeing these difficulties as impediments, it is possible to see them as opportunities for healing. Each obstacle is a chance to release old pain and make room for new experiences. Resistance can also be a reflection of the fear of losing control. Deep connections often place us in front of the unknown, and human beings tend to feel more comfortable when they have control over situations. However, the angels explain that these connections operate on a level beyond logic and control. They ask us to let go and trust the natural flow of life. Resisting this surrender only prolongs the process, while trusting allows the connection to run its course and fulfill its purpose. Finally, the angels show us that resistance is not necessarily something negative. It is a natural part of the spiritual journey and serves as a form of preparation. Just as a river encounters stones in its path, water doesn't stop flowing. It goes around obstacles until it finds the sea. In the same way, each obstacle encountered in the connection is an opportunity to strengthen the bond and prepare both of you for a deeper level of understanding and love. Overcoming this resistance requires patience and compassion, both for oneself and for the other. It's important to recognize that each person has their own rhythm, and that forcing a change can have the opposite effect. The angels ask you to be gentle with yourself and the other person during this process. Sometimes the wisest course is to allow time to do its work, trusting that each step, even if it feels like a delay, is part of a bigger plan. When you both manage to get through these obstacles together, the connection will become more solid and authentic. It will stop being just an emotional experience and become a shared spiritual journey. The angels guarantee that, however challenging the journey may seem, each obstacle overcome will bring greater clarity, peace, and harmony. In the end, what seemed like a barrier will reveal itself as a bridge to deeper understanding and truer love. Certain connections don't just arise to fill our lives with pleasant moments, but to trigger a spiritual awakening. When two souls meet on such a deep level, each acts as a mirror for the other, revealing inner aspects that may never have been confronted before. Spiritual awakening is therefore an inevitable process, although it is not always easy or comfortable. The angels teach us that this kind of connection exists to take us out of our comfort zone, paving the way for a journey of self-knowledge and personal transformation. This awakening can begin subtly, with small questions that arise in the mind. You might ask yourself why this person came into your life and why they provoke so many complex emotions. Before long, these questions become more intense, and you begin to realize that there is something bigger behind this encounter. Perhaps you feel you need to change certain habits, thought patterns, or even the way you view love and relationships. These are clear signs that the connection is awakening a new consciousness in you, even if the process isn't always clear at first. The other person is also going through this awakening, albeit in their own unique way and at their own pace. Not everyone is ready to face what this transformation brings. Some people may resist, trying to maintain their lives as they were before the encounter. This explains why the other person sometimes pulls away or reacts in an unexpected way. They are not just dealing with you, but with a part of themselves that has been activated, and that requires attention. The angels show us that although the other person's behavior may seem confusing, it is part of a larger process of inner growth. Spiritual awakening is usually accompanied by internal confrontations. These connections force everyone to look inwards and come face to face with fears, insecurities, and traumas that have been hidden. You may discover patterns of behavior that no longer serve you and that you need to let go of in order to move forward. On the other hand, you may realize that you have strengths and abilities that you had never recognized in yourself. This process is like an internal cleansing, where everything old and heavy needs to be left behind to make room for the new. The angels remind us that it is important to be gentle with ourselves during this phase. Spiritual awakening is not a race, but a path that must be walked with patience and compassion. Sometimes you may feel like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but that's part of the process. Each step, even those that seem like setbacks, is essential for your growth. The angels also ask you to be patient with the other person. Remember that everyone has their own rhythm, and it's not always possible to awaken at the same speed. During this journey, you may be tempted to look outside yourself for answers. It's natural to want to understand what's going on and look for explanations in books, advice from friends, or other external sources. However, the angels teach us that the most important answers will come from within. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to reconnect with your intuition and listen to what your heart is telling you. This is a time to trust your own path and accept that not everything needs to be understood immediately. As your spiritual awakening progresses, you will begin to notice changes, not only in yourself, but also in the dynamics of the connection. It may be that the other person begins to act differently, showing signs that they are also undergoing internal transformations. What previously seemed confusing or contradictory will begin to make sense, and you'll understand that every moment, whether you're getting closer or drifting apart, had a purpose. The angels explain that everything is part of a bigger plan, designed to help both parties grow and align with their true essence. This awakening process is not only individual, but also collective. As you and the other person move forward on your journeys, the connection between you becomes clearer and more authentic. You begin to see each other with more understanding and empathy, recognizing that despite your differences, you are walking parallel paths of spiritual growth. This new perception brings peace and acceptance, allowing you both to connect on a deeper and truer level. However, awakening doesn't mean that all the challenges will disappear. There will be times when doubts arise again, and old patterns try to reinstall themselves. But the difference is that you will now be better prepared to deal with these situations. The angels assure us that once the awakening process begins, there is no turning back. Every step you take is a step towards a higher version of yourself and the connection you share with others. Finally, the angels remind us that spiritual awakening is a gift. Even if it sometimes comes disguised as a challenge, it allows us to see life through new eyes and teaches us to value every moment, even the difficult ones. Although the path may be arduous, it is full of blessings and opportunities for growth. The important thing is to keep moving forward, one step at a time, with an open heart, and the confidence that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Not all connections develop in the same way on the spiritual plane as they do on the physical plane. This duality can be confusing, because while in the spiritual realm everything seems to flow and align perfectly, in the physical reality, things can seem clumsy, uncertain, or even impossible. The angels teach us that this discrepancy is not a flaw, but part of the process. Often, what happens on the spiritual plane serves as preparation for something greater, which, when the time is right, will manifest on the physical plane. The challenge lies in trusting that the timing of things is perfect, even if the immediate appearance suggests otherwise. On a spiritual level, you can feel the other person's presence intensely, even when you are physically far apart. It may be through vivid dreams, recurring thoughts, or inexplicable sensations that seem to connect you at random times of the day. These experiences are not coincidences, but indications that the connection is active and developing on another plane. It's as if the souls are working in harmony, preparing the ground so that, at some point, this union will also manifest clearly in the physical world. However, physical life is full of complications and distractions that can obscure this connection. Daily commitments, external relationships, and personal challenges often interfere, creating the impression that the bond is weakening. It can be frustrating to realize that while you feel something deep and meaningful, the other person seems oblivious or involved in other priorities. The angels ask for patience in these moments. What you see on the physical plane is only part of the story. There is much more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye. This separation between the planes is a test of trust and surrender. The angels explain that the physical world operates at a different pace, and it's not always possible to immediately align what we feel in spirit with what we experience in matter. It may be that the other person is still dealing with their own issues, needing to resolve personal situations before they are ready to fully connect with you. This doesn't mean that the connection is any less real or important, just that each soul has its own time of evolution. During this phase, you may be tempted to give up or doubt what you are experiencing. The angels remind us that this feeling of duality is common in deep spiritual connections. Sometimes you have to accept that, for a period, this person's presence will be stronger in the spiritual realm than in tangible reality. This is not a sign of failure, but rather an invitation to strengthen your trust in the invisible and learn to cultivate patience. It is at this point that the angels advise us not to try to force things to happen in the physical world. Instead, it's important to keep nurturing the connection in spirit, taking care of your own journey, and allowing everything to unfold at the right time. They remind us that when you are at peace with waiting, you make space for magic to happen naturally. Surrendering to the divine flow is what will allow both planes, spiritual and physical, to align at the perfect moment. This duality also has a greater purpose, to teach that true love doesn't just depend on physical proximity or constant presence. It transcends time and space, existing even when circumstances seem unfavorable. When you learn to trust the spiritual bond, you realize that nothing can really separate two souls who are destined to walk together. The connection between you doesn't disappear just because there is physical distance. It stays alive, growing in silence, until you are both ready to experience it fully. Finally, the angels want you to know that everything that is happening now has a purpose. The spiritual journey is full of ups and downs, and this duality between what you feel and what you see is just one part of it. The key is to remain firm in your faith, knowing that every step, even the most difficult ones, is leading you closer to a complete union. In the meantime, keep listening to your heart and nurturing the connection in spirit. In due course, what seems distant today will become a reality. In deep connections, external influences can play a significant role, both positive and challenging. Friends, family, and even past relationships often offer advice, support, or opinions on the relationship, often with the intention of helping. However, as these connections are very personal and spiritual, not everyone can fully understand the depth involved. The angels teach us that while it is natural to seek external guidance, it is essential to distinguish between what really resonates with your heart and what is just noise from the world around you. People close to you often project their own experiences and expectations onto the situation. For example, a friend may advise moving away, believing that this would be the best way to avoid suffering, or a family member may suggest another path that makes more sense to them. However, these suggestions don't always reflect what is most appropriate for your journey. The angels remind us that the purpose of these connections goes beyond conventional answers, and that's why intuition and the heart need to be listened to above all else. Sometimes these external influences create unexpected obstacles. The other person involved in the connection may be influenced by other people's opinions, and for fear of judgment, end up distancing themselves or hesitating to follow what they really feel. They may be listening to advice from someone who doesn't fully understand the spiritual dynamics of the relationship, and therefore chooses to repress their feelings. This kind of interference can delay the development of the connection, but the angels assure us that nothing can stand in the way of what is guided by the divine. When the time is right, the truth always finds a way to emerge. Another important aspect is that sometimes the person involved keeps the connection a secret, precisely to avoid outside interference. They may be afraid that other people won't understand or will judge the bond you share negatively. This behavior can be frustrating, especially if you feel that the relationship is being kept in the shadows. However, the angels invite us to view this attitude with compassion. Keeping the connection secret in some cases is a way of protecting it, ensuring that it is not contaminated by opinions that are not part of the spiritual process. At the same time, the angels ask you to observe yourself and evaluate how you deal with external opinions. It's possible that at some point, you too have sought validation from outside yourself, trying to find answers that would relieve your doubts. This is natural behavior, but the angels remind us that the only truly valid guidance comes from within. At every step, you are called to rely more on your intuition and the wisdom that already inhabits your heart. Listening to yourself is an act of courage and self-love. External influences can also have a positive side. They help bring clarity, albeit indirectly. When you come across advice that doesn't resonate with how you feel, this disagreement can reinforce your own inner certainty. Sometimes, listening to other people's opinions makes us realize more clearly what we don't want, which ends up helping us to identify what is true for us. Even if the path seems uncertain, these interactions act as mirrors, reflecting back the truths we already know, but which need to be consciously recognized. Finally, the angels want you to know that nothing and no one can stop the evolution of a true spiritual connection. Outside opinions can create delays or temporary confusion, but they cannot change what has been destined by the divine. This journey is unique to each person involved, and only the two of you can understand the depth of what you are experiencing. Even when others don't understand or try to influence you in unexpected ways, what really matters is the clarity you cultivate within yourself. With patience and trust, you will realize that external influences are only part of the picture and do not determine the fate of the connection. True love always finds a way to express itself, regardless of the obstacles. This journey requires faith, not just in the other person, but above all in yourself and how you feel. There are times when life seems to force us to change focus. Even in an intense connection, there may come a time when you need to redirect your energy inwards. This doesn't mean giving up or leaving behind what has been built, but rather an intentional pause so that each person involved can reconnect with their own essence. The angels explain that this redirection is a fundamental part of the journey, because it is in the inner silence that we find the answers and balance we need to move forward. When we invest a lot of energy in a connection, it's common to lose a bit of ourselves in the process. We try to understand the other person, predict their reactions, and adjust our behavior to maintain harmony. However, there comes a point when we need to return to our center and take care of our emotions. This redirection of energy is a call to remember that love begins within us. The angels show us that when we are aligned internally, the connection with the other becomes lighter and more fluid. This pause is essential for things to reorganize, both on a physical and spiritual level. Sometimes, what seems to be a temporary withdrawal is actually a necessary adjustment for the relationship to evolve to a new level. As each person works on themselves, deeper aspects of the connection begin to manifest. This is a process guided by greater forces, and we need to trust that everything is unfolding according to a greater plan, even if we can't always see the whole picture at the moment. The angels ask you to take care of yourself with love and patience during this phase. This is the ideal time to dedicate yourself to activities that bring peace and joy, to cultivate your talents and explore new paths. When you allow yourself to flourish individually, you also create space for the connection to evolve in a healthy way. You don't have to control the other person's time or rhythm. Just trust that you are both exactly where you should be. This phase of redirection also serves to eliminate unrealistic expectations that could be weighing down the relationship. We often create ideas about how the connection should be and try to shape it according to our expectations. However, the real purpose of these connections is to teach us to love without conditions or demands. By letting go of the need for control, we open ourselves up to a purer and more genuine love, capable of flowing freely between two souls. This process of surrender is essential for the greater purpose of the connection to manifest. The angels teach us that everything we experience, every encounter and every separation, has a profound meaning. Even moments of pain and uncertainty are part of a larger path that leads us to growth and healing. When we allow ourselves to trust this flow, we find the peace that comes from knowing that everything is exactly as it should be. During this time, you may notice signs from the universe that confirm you are on the right path. It could be a song, a phrase, or a coincidence that brings clarity to what you are experiencing. These signs are reminders from the angels that you are not alone, and that every step you take is aligned with the divine plan. Even if the other person is not yet ready to follow by your side, each person's individual growth is a fundamental part of the greater purpose. Finally, the angels want you to know that this phase of redirection is a preparation for what is to come. As you grow stronger and align with your own truth, you create space for true love to manifest fully and harmoniously. What feels like a departure is actually an opportunity to meet again and prepare for a deeper, more authentic connection in the future. The manifestation of a deep connection on the physical plane is a gradual and often unpredictable process. While the spiritual bond is clear and fluid, in the material world, things don't always happen as we expect. Both need to be ready and aligned for the connection to manifest in an authentic and balanced way. The angels explain that when two people are destined to meet or meet again physically, all circumstances begin to move in that direction, albeit in a subtle and unexpected way. This phase can be marked by signs and synchronicities. You may start to notice small signs in your daily life that indicate that the connection is getting closer to the physical plane. It could be a vivid dream, messages arriving via music, repeating numbers, or even unexpected encounters that seem to be the work of fate. These signs are the universe's way of telling you that the energies are adjusting and that something significant is about to happen. However, the angels ask you not to cling to these signs anxiously, but to welcome them serenely as confirmations that you are on the right track. Even with these signs, the physical manifestation of the connection may not be linear. There may be advances followed by pauses, or moments when it seems as if nothing is happening. This is common in deep connections, because the universe needs to align not only the desire of the souls, but also the practical circumstances of life. It may be that one of the parties is still resolving personal issues or overcoming obstacles before they are ready to give themselves completely to the connection. The angels ask you to be patient and trust this process. When the physical manifestation finally happens, it may not be exactly as imagined. Sometimes the way the reunion takes place is different from the expectations that have been created over time. This is not a problem, but rather an opportunity to experience the connection more truthfully and free of idealizations. The angels remind us that the more we are open to the present moment, the greater the chance of experiencing the fullness of the relationship. Physical manifestation is only part of the journey, and each encounter brings new lessons and discoveries. In addition, it's important to remember that the energy between you can be very intense when you finally meet on the material plane. Physical presence can amplify everything that has been experienced spiritually, bringing both feelings of joy and insecurity. The other person may feel overwhelmed by this intensity, needing time to adjust to the new dynamic. Likewise, you may be faced with unexpected emotions, such as fear of losing the connection or doubts about how to maintain it in the real world. The angels advise that in these moments, you remain anchored in your own inner peace. The key for the connection to manifest and flourish on the physical plane is authenticity. You both need to be willing to show yourselves as you are, without fear of judgment or rejection. Physical manifestation is not a final destination, but a new beginning, where each encounter is an opportunity for mutual growth. When both parties are willing to see each other with honesty and compassion, the relationship becomes a source of constant learning and transformation. This phase can also require practical adjustments and compromises. Deep spiritual connections don't always fit easily into daily routines and responsibilities. It may be necessary to find a balance between personal life and the relationship, so that the connection doesn't become a source of pressure, but rather of support and inspiration. The angels ask you to cultivate patience and understanding, remembering that you are both learning to integrate this connection in a healthy way into your lives. Finally, the angels want you to know that the physical manifestation of the connection is a gift, but not the only goal of the journey. The bond you share is eternal and transcends time and space. Every step you take in the physical world is an opportunity to celebrate this union, but also to recognize that true love doesn't depend on meetings or separations. It exists in every moment, in the way you take care of yourself, how you grow, and how you allow yourself to love unconditionally, both yourself and the other. Deep connections like this reveal an essential truth. The union between two opposing energies has the power to create a perfect balance. The angels show us that when two people meet and, despite their differences, remain open to learning from each other, something extraordinary happens. Each person offers the other what they lack, and together they become more complete. The growth that this union promotes is not only individual, but also a transformation that reflects on the relationship itself, taking it to a higher level. These opposing energies are not always easy to reconcile. At times they can seem to conflict, as if each were going in opposite directions. However, the angels explain that it is precisely in this contrast that the deepest learning lies. The differences between you are not obstacles, but opportunities to see the world from a new perspective. While one teaches patience, the other can teach courage. While one guides by the heart, the other brings the wisdom of reason. These exchanges are fundamental to the growth of both. The true power of this union lies not in perfection, but in the willingness of both to walk together, respecting each other's rhythm and space. Instead of trying to change the other to fit your expectations, each of you learns to accept and love the other as they are. The angels remind us that this acceptance is the basis of all true love. When we let go of the need for control, we make room for the connection to blossom naturally and authentically. This process of mutual growth doesn't just happen in moments of harmony, but also in difficulties. Each challenge faced together strengthens the union and reveals new facets of the relationship. The crises that arise along the way are not signs of failure, but opportunities for transformation. With each obstacle overcome, you both become stronger, wiser, and more aware of the depth of the love you share. The angels assure us that, with patience and perseverance, it is possible to turn any difficulty into learning and renewal. As this journey progresses, it becomes clear that the purpose of this connection goes beyond the immediate experience. It exists not only to bring moments of joy or comfort, but to teach valuable lessons about love, acceptance, and trust. Both become mirrors of each other, revealing both the shadows and the light they carry. By facing these unknown parts, each discovers their own strength and learns to walk the path of unconditional love. Finally, the angels want you to know that mutual growth and the union of opposites is an ongoing process. There is no endpoint to be reached, because learning never ends. Every day brings new opportunities to get to know each other better and to strengthen the relationship. The most important thing is that you both remain open to growth, willing to learn and change, regardless of external circumstances. This connection is a gift, a chance to experience love in its purest and most genuine form. It challenges, transforms, and inspires not only those involved, but also everyone around you. The journey you share is unique and precious, and every step you take together is part of a bigger plan. The angels ask you to continue walking with confidence and gratitude, knowing that every moment you experience, whether joyful or challenging, is leading you closer to the deepest truth, that love is the greatest purpose of all connections. And so, with your heart open and your soul at peace, you are ready to move on, trusting that everything is exactly as it should be. If this message resonated with you and your situation, write in the comments, "I trust in divine timing." Share your experiences in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.